All right. We're going live. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. This is going to be the topic of this video. See if we get better lighting in here. It's going to be open forum Q&A, a recap. First, before we get started, as usual, this video is going to be for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation is different. Keep in mind, it's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. Any event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, please do so at one's own leisure. It is encouraged. Everyone is responsible for their own affairs. Dorsey's Resource channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of the information being discussed. With that being said, these are simply my opinions on the topic. All rights are reserved. Now, this is open Q&A. This is going to be contingent upon how many people we have come in the chat. I just wanted to let you guys know. I want to appreciate you all who continue to follow me. Those of you all who are subscribed, who are still here. It's been a while since I've done a Q&A. Said I'm going to try to work on coming to you all earlier in the day. So this is also like a freestyle, free flow discussion. So we see someone in the chat section that says, State Bound says, peace and blessings. Thank you. Appreciate it. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for joining. I did have kind of a topic in mind I was going to discuss, by the way, since you guys are also welcome to chime in at any time. If you have any questions, this is the best time to catch me, and I'll do my level best to try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. But I was going to discuss, I may save this for another topic down the road. When I've talked about gatekeepers, bad actors, agents, there's one in particular that I follow from time to time to see what they're up to. And they mentioned my name fraudulently and accused me, made some false accusations that some things I didn't say that is related to redemption education, the stuff that I go over for that particular topic. However, there's like sub chapters and procedures within redemption I don't really cover or talk about, such as pertaining to UCC. But this individual gatekeeper, who some of y'all may know who I'm talking about, I refer to as a villain, who I think follows my channel from time to time. And I remember when they came out in 2017 and actually copycatted my material and actually was an agent on the calls I was invited on. And I was had someone I was working with a year and a half ago that pointed this out, how observant I am, that we don't know for sure. She likes to dox people and mention people's real names and faces, but she never shows a real face, a real name herself. And I did have a private investigator a while ago. I didn't ask him to do this because I have all sorts of people who follow me. I can't control people from all walks of life, just to let you guys know, by the way. I don't have any control of that because I'm putting this out public to show transparency and even hold myself accountable. But this particular gatekeeper, and I don't have confirmation if they are a government agent or shield. However, I've discussed in the past that sometimes people can be agents of confusion, disruption, provocateurs, saboteurs, etc. And that's what she definitely appears to be, a minion that I've identified. She's a villain, by the way. She's a friend of mine pointed out that during the TDA movement, she tries to say that she's debunked a lot of that information. And I think it was a lot that I would have tried to fit in the title, but since this is open Q&A, you guys are welcome to chime in if you have any questions or comments you would like to add. But I'm just kind of just sharing this with you all, that you do in this movement, when I discuss redemption education, you do have bad actors. They refer to the military. That's like a military term, or special ops. You have gatekeepers, agents, minions, trolls, underlings, henchmen. I also refer to as deep state operatives. These are also mean-spirited people who she's claiming that she's trying to expose fraud, but she's fraudulent herself. Like, she's tried to attack content creators, and there's people that have approached her about legitimate, credible information that works pertaining to redemption information. I was told behind the scenes when I had a subscriber who contacted me that said she had verifiable proof of success and said that Virgo Triad blocked her out. So that means she's not even trying to hear anything that's credible. She just wants to accuse everything of being a fraud. And that's not fair, to have a fair balance perspective, and to wrongfully accuse people and make accusations when she's never met me before, and likes to dox people, show their faces, but she doesn't show a real name. She's using a pseudonym account. Virgo Triad breaks down the Venus Trinity. By the way, Triad, if you know, it's the name of a Chinese mafia. Don't know if she has any connections to that, but a friend of mine told me Virgo is often associated with feminism or feminist logo. Is you use coded symbols, just like when the FBI uncovered the Pizzagate thing, and they've uncovered pedophile rings, that people were part of cults and secret societies and organizations use pendulums and things to identify with one another, by the way, and even code names, by the way, just and mention some empowerment. And this information is public. This is not conspiracy theory. The FBI actually put out, they have a report when they do investigations, deep investigative research, and I found out they've even contracted, because some of the stuff was so dangerous, with private investigators. I don't know who she is, but if you guys out there can help me find out or unmask who she is, because this is a form of defamation of character. This is libel. I've never sold, as of this point, I've never sold TDA packages. She's accused myself and other content creators, called us sovereign citizens. I've never used that term or that label before. I don't refer to myself. I discuss contracts. I discuss redemption information, education that is related. However, that terminology, sovereign citizen, is used to also discredit people and make them look like they're crazy, a conspiracy theorist. And I want to say that stereotyping, if you're trying to label everyone as a whole as being one particular way. We all are different human beings. We're born with different temperaments, different ideologies. We all don't think the same. Obviously, this is common sense, but whoever this individual is that goes by the name Virgo Triad, if I have private investigators, appreciate the guy, Alan Michael, who came in a video a while ago that shared that information and contacted me privately and told me I may be on to something when I ran a short background check on her already. Because I do work in a form of law enforcement capacity, a lower level. I actually, some years ago, I could have been PD, but I decided not to for my own personal reasons, by the way. But I assure you myself, when you watch my channel, you're getting reputable, credible information. I try to relate to people from all different backgrounds. I don't judge people whether they've been to prison before. This Virgo Triad, she oftentimes attacks people. Particularly, she labels everyone as a sovereign citizen. She's one-dimensional. I've never sold TDA packages. She's accused me of selling TDA packages. I don't talk about UCC financing statements. However, I have mentioned in the past, I've shown books that you guys can empower yourself to research, but she's trying to lump me in a category with other people. And this is a form of called gaslighting. And you can look up the definition of gaslighting and what that is and what she's fraudulently accusing me of. And I want you guys, just FYI, to do research and to see the validity. That's why I do give a disclaimer to assure you that I'm credible and reputable, more so than someone who's hiding behind a shield or fake account that's not showing her real face or real name. So if there is any private investigators out there, Alan Michael, if you're still watching, kudos to you for that work that you brought. Any law enforcement people, you know, any lawyers, give me, you know, if you can, pro bono, I need your assistance, because this is a form what she's doing is defamation of character. I've never met this person before. She doesn't know me, and she's fraudulently calling me names, trying to make me look like a domestic terrorist, which I am not. I'm not anti-government. I am against corruption. I'm anti-corruption, by the way. So I'll call out things when I see it. I will report on credible information, and she claims to report and expose fraud, but I've debunked a lot of lies and things she's put out there, because not everything I want to say for on the record is not fairy tale, urban legend, or mythological. I had friends, I talked to astute people. I did a video in the past a long time ago when I used to show my security uniform, which I won't go over. I still have the video uploaded as to the reason why a long time ago. If you go back to maybe my playlist or older video I've done a long time ago where I explain that already. And I did that at the credibility, by the way, that I've been through a background check, not only with my company, I also am a concealed carry holder. I had to go through a background check for that as well, plus a separate background check when I purchased my firearm. So that's 3 background checks I had to go through. And mind you, when you work in security or law enforcement, you have to have a squeaky clean criminal record, no felonies, misdemeanors. You can't be on any drugs. They did take a drug test when I started. You had to be basically squeaky clean. And on top of that, I'm a minority. So according to some people's standards, I wasn't supposed to make it past the age of 18. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to push a liberal agenda. I'm not actually a registered voter. On a record, there's certain contracts you do not have to enter into. I've talked to people who said they didn't know this. Yes, you can go down and cancel your voter registration. It's the difference between registration and recording. Now, I do discuss the law, but however, everyone has to do their own research and make their own assessment. But what I go over is valid information. I want to assure you, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I had a coworker in the past that accused me or tried to call me that just because I talk about things or subjects that may seem outside of the norm perspective. I took psychology, 2 different psychology classes at 2 different colleges. I went to DeVry Institute of Technology, and my psychology teacher down there said just because people do weird or certain things that may appear outside of the box does not make them crazy or conspiracy theorists. I'm a perfectly sane individual, but what I do is similar to Mythbusters. I'm exposing things that some of these gatekeepers and minions and people in the ruling class, elite at high upper echelon levels, do not want you to know, by the way. And some of this stuff, it is a form of investigative research, investigative journalism. This is also what detectives do. People that work in law enforcement, forensic people. By the way, they gather evidence. They may not have been to where the crime was committed, say as a murder, but in many cases nowadays with technology, DNA evidence and other things, it has enabled them to find potential suspects, and they may not always be accurate. There is flaws, but I want to say what I do is similar, you know. So that's why I say I'm showing transparency by showing my real face. I'm not hiding behind a fake account like this individual is, whoever she is, that goes by the name Virgo Triad, that breaks down into Venus Trinity. By the way, that I say is a bad actor, is a gatekeeper, definitely some sort of agent, and does not look into the credible side of redemption education, what I discuss, and is not willing to debate. And I said previously, another content creator whose channel I do follow, I'm subscribed to, Yusuf El, did a video during the day, maybe a week ago approximately, but not too long ago, and he challenged trolls, specifically people hiding behind fake shield and ghost accounts, and even a lawyer as well that's trying to accuse this information as far as being fraudulent. Now I'm gonna say, in this world, this universe, is you have yin and yang. You have a good side, you have a bad side. Everything generally has an opposite. So I talk about the legitimate side. I took a speech class in college where I gave an example in the past from a previous video where I had a classmate who actually approached me I did a presentation on video games some years ago on the positive aspects of it. And he said he was glad that I went first because he did a presentation on the negative aspects that video games can have. So it's 2 different outlooks, 2 different perspectives. That doesn't mean neither of us is wrong, right or wrong. You get what I mean? However, with she's trying to falsely label myself and others out there, just so you all would be aware. She's trying to steer you away from looking or researching this type of information and spook you, by the way, and just fraudulently make things up that I've proven unequivocally are inaccurate, by the way. So I just want to kind of put that to the side. This is, by the way, in case you're joining me, I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. This is also open forum Q&A for the few that are watching. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to chime in. This is the best time to reach me, by the way. If you have any questions, I tell people this because I have a very busy schedule as of lately, and I just want to let you guys know I'm still here before you guys. I'm going to work on trying to learn YouTube, so maybe I can give you guys some tidbits or notes after the videos, like from different comments that YouTube now enables content creators to post things not just selfies similar to other social media sites, but like tidbits of information like Q&A and other things for you all. So just put it out there. So far, this is open forum Q&A discussion. In the past, I've discussed very recently pertaining to redemption education. The N lingus is referred to as in the court system, what those say straw man. And the court system is called N lingus. I recommend look up the definition of N lingus. You're doing business as the legal person. Also look up civilator mortis. That means in case you're wondering how this is spelled, you can go back to a few recent videos that I've done and look at how it's spelled, and go online, Yahoo or Google search, and pull it up, by the way, and see how that's spelled. Civilator mortis is the loss or almost, it says, the definition of all civil rights. They're using Roman law. I also gave the definition of recently of capitis diminutio maxima. And the court system they use was called legalese, by the way, legalese. And for those of you all out there who are on the fence about learning information pertaining to redemption, I was discussing with a friend of mine recently, a good friend. We were having a conversation because he's been inquisitive, curious. And I said, if you're on the fence, I felt, in my opinion, I do give a disclaimer. But as a precaution, I said that it's something that you have to decide what you want to do. You have to make your own assessment, and there's many different processes and procedures. Just like this gatekeeper says that she's afraid there's many people teaching on here. You can't stop people from blogging, sharing information from their experiences. Who are you to stop individuals like myself or falsely or wrongly accuse us? We have a right to do that. It's freedom of speech and give our opinion or share, just like when people critique merchandise or do different videos on unboxing different materials. So consumers in general, people out there will have an understanding of things. So that's kind of also what I do as well, not just Mythbusters, but pertaining to redemption education. If you're on the fence, I suggest you do a lot of reading up front. You try to make an assessment and discern if this is something that's for you. At the end of the day, you have to make that decision yourself. I think, in my opinion, it will not hurt you. It will only add, because pertaining to the regular public sector of the system, you have to enter into contracts and things anyway when you engage in what's called commerce or business. And I discussed in a previous video that this information is also encrypted and hidden within several college courses. By the way, it's hidden in an accounting class that talks about marketable and non-marketable securities, which deals with registered securities. Even though there's people that do get different securities licenses, when I attended this private seminar some years ago, I did say on the call a couple years ago, some people may have misconstrued, you don't have to have a securities license, but there is maybe certain paperwork that is required that you need to submit to the SEC or whomever to show validity behind what you're doing, by the way. But I mentioned how a friend of mine actually had a Series 7 license, which is very prestigious. And I woke him up to this information some years ago, and he was stunned. He was actually, a lot of people get upset once they find out, but he was able to connect the pieces because he realized he worked at the time for Vanderbilt Securities. Now, I won't say his name to protect his identity, of course, but this is a legitimate, a real person. And he woke me up to how the birth certificate, as well as the Social Security card and other instruments, they are forms of securities instruments. Also, the private event, which was totally separate, that I attended some years ago, they went over this information with what CUSIP means, Committee on Uniform Securities Identification Procedures, or Committee on Uniform Securities Identifying the Principal. There's kind of several different variations. They told us to look up the Securities Act of 1933. I had a friend who was on the fence about this information as well, and I also informed him that there's people who they say they're concerned about being put on a watch list. Well, did you know, I hate to cook your noodles, but many of you all, if you call yourself a U.S. citizen, you're already on a watch list, and I'll give you the evidence to look up. And I have some notes right here with me. I'll go over the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. You can look this up. Don't take my word for what I say. Look up the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. Also look up the Emergency War Powers Act of 1933. This is when this was implemented. Mind you, I just mentioned the Securities Act of 1933. There's a reason these particular acts or laws were put into place during these particular time periods. The Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917 came about 4 years after the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, which I suggest you look that up. This gatekeeper that accused me of this fraudulent stuff I went over earlier, she tried to say that G. Edward Griffin was inaccurate, and that's not true. Edward G. Griffin's book, Creature from Jekyll Island, also put out an audio, is highly accurate as well. David Windmiller, his work that he does is accurate as well. Judge Anna Von Ritz, her information is accurate. I want to assure you. Who else I can think of? Judge Dale, the research that he put in is accurate, by the way. So there is a legitimate side, contrary to popular belief and the lies that is spewed by this gatekeeper minion agent out there. You know, I will tell you, you know, I already kind of went over the information, but I'm giving you the tools to look up at your liking, whatever search engine you use, Yahoo or Google. Also, I suggest get a Black's Law Dictionary to look up those legal terms. So this is a recap as well. By the way, you guys have any questions, I'm going to jump to the chat again. In case you're joining me, I'm your host, John Dorsey. This is Dorsey's Resource. I'm going over, this is open forum Q&A. This is the best time to ask me questions, to reach me while I'm available. I have a busy schedule. So I'm going to go back to the chat real quick. This is also Q&A, freestyle discussion. Chris Smith says, salutations. Thank you for joining. Terry McLaughlin says, how's it going, Dorsey? Appreciate you. Thank you for joining. State Bound says, acts and conditions on the passport app. Okay, interesting. If you want to elaborate, State Bound, I don't mind if you chime in. We do have people on here who do come in who are advanced. And I'm not trying to get all the limelight, all the glory. There's people I've met that are more advanced than myself. I am at a certain level. And this, you have people that are way up here. You know, I'll say I'm down here, but there's people in the middle. You got people way low. So it's different levels. It's also different processes, different procedures. I did a video already previously discussing more recently, not too long ago, redemption education is unconventional, by the way. But just giving a thorough assessment from another aspect that some content creators might not bring up who discuss this type of information. It says that shows the watch list for us citizens. Okay, acts and conditions on the... Okay, interesting. I'll have to check that out. That's, you know, I'm interested in that. If you want to send me more information, State Bound, if you're still watching on that information, I would like to know more. You can reach me at Dorsey's Resource, spell as one word, 2017 at gmail.com. Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com, by the way. But I went over how a friend of mine who was on the fence about learning this information, I stated to him, you already, when you take your kids to school, when you get a birth certificate, you have children for the first time, if you have a house, a car, you have to sign contracts, paperwork, documentation. If you work a job, which some people say is just over broke, there's paperwork, not just with the IRS, but there may be contracts involved, by the way. And there's those that are afraid or concerned about being put on a watch list. When I want to say this again, look up the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. If you call yourself a U.S. citizen, you're automatically already on a form of a watch list, by the way. You know, that is a contract. When you see this on applications, they're not telling you the difference between these definitions. This is why I went over, and the court system uses... Now I'm going to see if I'm going to find... I have some powerful notes I had previously already taken that can help provide maybe better clarification on that, by the way, in terms of legalese. But what some of these gatekeepers are also trying to do, they're trying to divide people and cause disruption. Because like I said, some people, may not have any evidence, agents of, bad underlinks or whatnot, but they can be saboteurs, provocateurs, agents of disruption, by the way. But I want to assure you, at Dorsey's Resource, I'm going to go over accurate information I'm given to empower you all to look up as a courtesy. I did give a disclaimer. So this is not legal advice, but please do your research and govern yourself accordingly. By the way, just to go over some history, this is Black History Month, by the way. It says black people during slavery times, I found out, black Hebrew Israelites, they were the first to report on and tell on other black slaves to the master landowner of the plantation. We were traded as commodities at one time, just like they do. The birth certificate is a traded registered security. It is a form of a commodity. UCC financing statements, by the way, are used to put the state on notice if you have a notice of lien, and there's another box that you check that's called a non-UCC. That is a form of a private lien, by the way. Now, there's information people can look up, but that's if you have a vested interest in property. Nowadays, because we deal with contracts and commercial paper, contracts and material things can be considered property. And commodities, they consider precious metals, gold and silver. They have what's called the commodities market. So as I went back to slavery times, the owner of the plantation, many slaves were used and traded as commodities for free or cheap labor. Slavery still going on today. It's a form of involuntary servitude. So I'm tying in the history aspect with our modern day society. This is open forum Q&A, so those of y'all who are watching, in case you're joining, you're also welcome to ask questions, by the way. Remember, it was against slaves to be able to read. This is why the establishment and gatekeepers and minions and shills want to keep many people illiterate. As I said in the past, many of these shills, henchmen, villains, underlings, want to keep people dumbed down. They want to keep people pretty much in the dark, by the way. Another thing, this is evident within the court system where African Americans make up a vast majority or simply can't afford proper legal representation. By the way, because this is for Black History Month, I'm just tying this in, how this connects. Members of the Bar Association, which they get their license through the county, the P license gives them like another form of citizenship, which takes like a higher rank above U.S. citizen, but it's still a form of a contract. And the court system, they combine Admiralty and Maritime. Admiralty's military, Maritime is law of the seas. They combine the jurisdictions together, but what they're not telling you, many public officials and people operating within the courts are committing fraud. They're operating misconduct. And by the way, this agent who I mentioned earlier, who came at me, I'm just defending myself, by the way, in case you guys are wondering if it sounds like I'm ranting, I'm just defending my stance. But I was watching World News Tonight, which I happen to catch from time to time. Sometimes I'll switch between the NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, but I watched as of yesterday, the 21st, a Friday, with David Muir, ABC World News Tonight. And towards the end, something I brought up previously, and I would ask the question, they mentioned this on World News Tonight about Wells Fargo Bank opening accounts and using them. They just settled a $3 billion lawsuit. $3 billion, that's a lot. Why doesn't Virgo Triad, Van Bellen, and these other gatekeepers who hide behind fake shill accounts, who don't show a real face, a real name, you're not credible, you are a bad actor, you're a villain, you're a minion, you don't challenge anyone, get demonic demons, you operatives, it just shows how fraudulent you are. This shows Wells Fargo has done way more damage than so-called sovereign citizens. By the way, as she will have you to believe, she tries to point the finger and label everyone as a sovereign citizen. Now, I want to say this again. They use that term as an umbrella term to discredit people, to steer them. They don't want you looking over here or over there. They say there's nothing there, over there is nothing over that way. They just want you controlled and pretty much illiterate, like I just went over, when they didn't want to allow slaves people to read, because the court system uses a completely different language called legalese. But why doesn't Virgo Triad, many of these people who say they're exposing fraud, corruption, mention the egregious crimes that not just Wells Fargo Bank, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian committed with data breaches, as well as, remember, it came out in the news, many of these big corporations, Best Buy, Target, this done way far more damage than so-called sovereign citizens. Let me say this again. I was watching World News Tonight, which is for somebody like Virgo Triad, Van Bellen, Captain Spaulding, you other fake agents out there, you shills hiding behind fake accounts, you minions, underlings, villains, why don't you mention that? My friend of mine pointed this out on the public sector, where she's trying to convince you to be a good slave and say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, a good citizen, and stay on the plantation, that she doesn't want you waking up, and all of these people, these minions that claim they're exposing fraud. Why don't you talk about that? That has done far more damage than so-called sovereign citizens. Woo! Woo! I just shut it down. Wow, Dorsey, you touching on something deep. I'm getting you to think. They want you brainwashed. So Virgo Triad, before you come at me, get your facts right, if your facts really matter. Because I do check once in a while to see what you're up to, what lies you're spewing, and I seen how you plagiarize my material. You copyright it, and we are on to you, definitely. And I had, like I said earlier, I'll tell the story, I had a private investigator came to my channel some time ago. I don't know if he's still watching. Alan Michael, that's the name he was under. Video I did a while ago, I don't remember which video it was, but he was in the chat, and I guess he ran a background check on Virgo and told me I was on to something when I told him the name that I ran matched up, by the way. And I do work in, I don't normally say it because for copyright reasons a while ago, but I don't show it, but I can assure you, you're getting your credible information from Dorsey's Resource. And I had to go through 3 background checks. One for the security company I work for, by the way. I had to take, for my concealed carry license, I had to go through a background check for that. Also, when I purchased my firearm, originally, some years ago, remember they're getting strict on this because I am a concealed carry holder, by the way. So, mind you, these other people who want you to believe that their facts matter, that they're reputable, that they're credible, but they hide behind a fake account, a pseudonym name, they're trolling many cases, and then they'll steal content to try to help spew the lies that they want you to believe. And I've debunked a lot of things that, not just that channel, but many certain others who attack this information as far as not being real. So you coming at the wrong person, by the way. I'm more credible and I'm reputable, by the way. That shows how when a person is showing their real face and I'm giving my real name, that's how I'm reputable, by the way. But you are not credible, by the way. So I challenge you, show real fakes and stop trolling, by the way, and spewing lies. And from once again, I told the story. I watched David Muir with World News Tonight, ABC Nightly News, and they talked about Wells Fargo Bank data breach. Just settled a $3 billion lawsuit and some other things. That's a lot of money, significant amount of money. So if you guys are really exposing fraud, I question how sincere you guys are. And then I mentioned to a friend, Virgo Triad tries to accuse content creators who so-called talk about redemption stuff and call us that name, the SCs, and claim that we're making money or whatever. Let me tell you, my channel is monetized, which I've admitted in the past, only monetized. But as of this point, on the record, this is a fact. I've never sold TDA packages, by the way, as of yet. I don't even have a Patreon yet. I mentioned that a while ago. You guys don't even see a Cash App, donation, or PayPal. I've never had it. I've had people bring it to my attention and suggest it already, even with my busy schedule. I've never had a GoFundMe account. Virgo Triad's had a GoFundMe account. Her channel is monetized. So a friend of mine pointed out, he sees as though not just herself and others accusing us of being a fraud, but she's more fraudulent and collecting money more so than we are. So we have more of a right to say, maybe you need to take a look at your own self before you point the finger at someone else and you're hiding behind a fake account and not showing your real face or real name. Why is that? That's very, very suspect, by the way. And I've never even met this person, but you come at me, I'm just defending myself, because in a recent video that she did, a short video, was like less than 5 minutes, I saw, where she mentioned myself, Moneyboy, Hellraiser, and some other people, and it's totally fraudulent. I have notes already, by the way, but I just wanted to clear that up. By the way, if you're gonna come at me, you know, you need to come correct or not come at all, because you're fraudulent and you're fake. You are the fraud, Virgo. And that's just on a record, by the way. So I hope you guys do the research behind what I'm saying and compare, check the validity, and see who's telling the truth and who's really not. They're practicing a form of subterfuge. That's actually a definition. Look up subterfuge, by the way, what that means, by the way. So I went over a little bit of the history within the court system. I went over the bar, that P number that issued by the county to practice, which is a form of a contract to practice the law, is a sense of dual citizenship. BAR is an acronym for British Accredited Regency. There may be an acronym. They're esquires, like on a chessboard. They're knights for the queen. This came out of, they created titles of nobility that came out of Great Britain. Lawyers, the Bar Association act as a third party. This is why we should have been learning the legal system in elementary school. I would say not just middle school or civics class, which was taught in high school, that deals with the law, government. It's a connection to economics. We should have been learning the law, because these lawyers, they're acting as a third party hustle. When I talked about a lot of fraud that's going on within the court system, when they take on a client, you are declaring yourself incompetent to handle your commercial affairs. So the lawyer you hired has been given power of attorney to administer your estate, aka legal person trust account. And when you turn over your social security number through your signature, they can monetize and put your signature on contracts you might not even be aware of, and they can cash in on your account through your SSN number, which I mentioned. And through the finance discipline, it's a form of a registered security, a securities instrument, just like the birth certificate. By the way, these terms are significant. And the college class, business and the law, there's 3 chapters that relate to redemption and education. I always forget, but there's one chapter which deals with UCC finances statements that's called secure transactions. By the way, it's a chapter called in the collegiate class, business and the law. It's called secure transactions. That actually relates to UCC finances statements, which is general commerce. It's just simply you're putting the state on notice that you have you have property interest, a security interest in a particular property. It's a form of a notification, and they're also banking forms. By the way, you have to research what these forms mean, because some people may have been using them out of the context. That's why states and things maybe put out notices, but they're using committing fraud when they're blocking people from even filing as the same name. There's a difference between your legal person, your in lingus, versus what people call the straw man. In the court system, they use in lingus, legal person. Also, or referred to as you're the real party in interest. There's a difference. Why I went over the terminology. Look up the difference, the definition of person versus natural person. Because in some of the Black's Law dictionaries, it doesn't matter if you want to use a Bouvier, but I recommend maybe several Black's Law dictionaries, because what they do is they take out certain terms that are significant and play a shuffle game. Or like the older versions, they will be in there, but the newer versions, there will be a abridged version, or they will have removed certain words they don't want you to know about. Because it's compartmentalized, where I think even lawyers or attorneys, they don't want to know some of this information. And you have to keep in mind, there's different types of attorneys. I found out there's attorneys that the elites use who are trained at certain schools I hear, such as Yale, Cambridge, and Harvard. Don't quote me on it, but they're taught, deals with certain types of trust that the ruling class elite use, common law express trust. By the way, and there's certain lawyers that trained in equity. Some of you all know equity pertains to another word, by the way, another term. And within the courts, I'm aware of kind of the other definition. By the way, there's a public side and there's a private side. The same with your legal a trust account, your estate. By the way, so I went over, when you hire a lawyer, an attorney, you're giving them power of attorney to administer your estate. Also, one of our private news investigators here, I noticed from WXYZ ABC Channel 7, Heather Cataldo, which is under Scripps Howard, did a investigation on some lawyers who were taking advantage of people's estates. They were stealing homes from people that were supposed to be passed down to relatives who were already designated as executors or administrators to manage their estate, and they were dragging out the cases in probate. And she busted a big story and showed how this big firm was stealing, getting all this money. So I have the evidence that Virgo Triad is lying. She's a fraud. Don't believe her. She's a villain. She's, you know, like in the movies, she's a bad guy. She's a bad person, by the way. This is actual reputable information you can look up on YouTube. Look up Heather Cataldo. She's with one of the local news stations in Detroit. I can corroborate, like a law enforcement personnel, her information. And she busted these attorneys. I think it was from Oakland County, maybe some other places where they were stealing people's estates and purposely dragging it out through probate court. And these families were complaining they had homes and stuff that was supposed to be, once their relative passed away, that was supposed to be transferred, reconveyed over to them. And these attorneys came in as conservators. So the court system, they're committing a lot of fraud, by the way. So I have the evidence. This is facts. Real facts matter. It's important that, you know, you question these gatekeepers who want you to believe them that they're reporting on fraud, that want you to believe that their facts matter. Tell them to show their face and their real name if they're credible, if they want people to know. But I'm giving you tools to look up. And those stories, some of them you may be able to find on YouTube, but I would suggest you Google or Yahoo Online. She works with the news station. I saw her work as an actual regular reporter, but she's specifically with their investigative journalist team, by the way. And I pay attention to several of the local news stations. But it was an excellent story that she covered, by the way. Heather Cataldo. Look up. I don't remember what it was called, so you have to do your research. But she exposed how this corruption is going on a big scale. But I knew this from studying the redemption education years ago, from talking to different people privately, having people who are more advanced than myself who were telling me stories of the corruption, the fraud that was going on. So this is why I'm giving you key definitions. This is open forum to research and investigate in depth. You can't be a weekend warrior with this information. So I highly, highly suggest you investigate this information in depth. But I'm telling you the truth. I go over factual information. Now, as I said previously out there, these gatekeepers, these trolls will try to accuse this information of being fraudulent, but they're not showing an actual face. Think about it. They're hiding behind a fake account, but they want you to believe they're telling the truth, that their facts matter, or they're exposing fraud. But why are they not giving you certain empowering or key critical information like I am, going over certain things? They're leaving certain things out, like gray area stuff. But I'm thoroughly covering the information, and I'm empowering you guys to look up online or whatever search engine to your liking, you know, different web hosting platforms, video web hosting platforms to research. By the way, this is real. This is not a fairy tale. This is not urban legend. I go over factual information. You do have fiction, but I go over nonfiction. You know, so real facts matter. But it's important that credible, reputable facts matter. And you're getting it from a credible, reliable source that's not a shield, by the way. That's not hiding from anyone. And you know, so with that said, you guys, on a side note, I ranted a little bit. You have any questions? This is the last call. By the way, this was Q&A, but I just wanted to get that off my chest so my subscribers would be aware how there's people out here I've talked to that truly want to learn this redemption information. I'm getting ready to get to the chat, by the way, but there are people who are mean-spirited, who are evil, wicked, and you know, I refer to them as different names. I put a list together. The military calls them bad actors. Many are gatekeepers, agents, minions, trolls, underlings. This person I refer to as a villain, by the way. Henchmen, deep state operatives. Yes, they are real. So I'm going to get to the chat before I shut things down. Terry says, hey, Dorsey, check out this link I came across. First, I was told to look up United States government, then to look up United States of America government. I'm going to put the link next to the message. Okay, well, I recommend, Terry, too, in case I don't see it, you can also shoot me an email at dorsey'sresource2017@gmail.com. That's specifically for serious inquiries only pertaining to this channel. If I don't get to you right away down the road, hopefully I will work on it. Just give me time. I have a lot of people contact me. I'm even I can't do this for everybody, but I have subscribers who follow me, and some heavy hitters as well as people who are not advanced who I'm in direct contact with, by the way. And I have a busy schedule. I just picked up a second job, so but send me a link. You can also, on my Facebook page, any links you can post on there as well. You're welcome to. If you have something you want me to check out, kudos to the guys who actually sent me the law dealing with the Trading with the Enemy Act that I went over, because there's people worried about being put on a watch list. But the term United States citizen, U.S. citizen, that's on applications, that is a jurisdictional, that's a contract. Believe legally. You got to understand, the court system uses what's called legalese. Look up the definition. Legalese, the definition of it, is used to replace plain talk, but it's intentionally been put in place to keep the general public illiterate, dumbed down, and give the lawyers and judges in the court system an advantage. This is why when people go to court for the first time and they don't understand what's going on, what are they talking about? That's why I said we should have been learning a legal class in elementary school, because there's a lot of fraud that's being committed in the courts. And you guys, if you like the content that I'm talking about, or you agree with what I'm saying on a side note, let's get the thumbs up rolling. It lets the haters, the gatekeepers, and the trolls out there know that I'm credible. You're also welcome to leave a comment after the video if you do appreciate the work that I do, the investigative research that I'm relaying back to you guys. Give me a thumbs up. It lets me know. And you're always welcome to leave a comment, even if I don't respond right away or I'm not able to leave a response. I can at least give you a love emoji because there's so many people. But getting to the chat, by the way, so I read that comment from Terry. Let me scroll back up. Okay, it looks like quite a bit of you guys jumped in. Okay, Champion 211 says, is your birth certificate worth money? Yes. However, I would say Champion 211, to answer the question, it is complex. I did mention briefly, it is a form of a registered security. It might be classified. Don't quote me on it. A private issue government security. You have marketable and non-marketable securities. I was in a friend of mine's wife's accounting book she gave me for her college, by the way. Some of this information is encoded and hidden within college classes. That's right. Business and law, I keep forgetting the other two chapters that's related to this information. So I went over secure transactions, deals with UCC financing statements. There was a chapter called commercial paper that deals with negotiable instruments, site drafts. This information was taught because in modern day society, a lot of gatekeepers, people who work in the public, haven't been trained on this type of information. So some people just simply don't know. You can't fault people for not knowing. So you have a combination of different things going on. So this is in a college class. It'll either be called business and the law or just business and law, by the way. Secure transactions, that's a chapter pertaining to generally UCC financing statements. If you look that book up, you can pull the PDF online. They have hardback books, but just in case you can't find it, do a research online of business and law or business and the law. And that should be that's what that chapter is generally called. Commercial paper generally will deal with negotiable instruments. There's another chapter called intellectual property that deals with copyrights, trademarks, things of that sort. You see, that's related, by the way. So you see how I'm going over? Notice these gatekeepers, these villains and minions haven't mentioned this. By the way, when I go and watch to see what lies they're spewing, what they're up to, you're getting real facts over here. Real facts matter. Reputable information. You know, Jekyll Hyde says, how do you check the birth certificate QSIP online? That's a good question. I've heard there were several different methods. There was a broker I was in contact with that told me it was a specific way. He went over the steps with me. I don't know. I can't say offhand. But however, there was another method that people say because there's a connection to how they're trading these documents, because the birth certificate is, I was told by very credible sources, is connected to the Social Security card. There is a connection, by the way. And that site, GMEI Utility, which even this gatekeeper tried to say when she came out, when the TDA movement broke out a couple years ago, she tried to say that that was not credible. But when I found out how you put your Social Security number in there and you can look up the different companies around the world that are making money off you or trading you, and then it stated they're a subsidiary under the DTC, under the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. So, you know, so I do my level best to try to answer you guys' question, but hopefully that's good enough to empower you to look up, to answer that question. By the way, let me scroll back up. King Oso says 1990, got a light emoji. The light's on. Mary Saunders says, hello, sir. They want to see you talk about them. We love your information. Thank you very much. Namaste. Appreciate you for joining, Mary. Lost Grimoires Negromancy is known to be a, okay, that's the name of the account. It says, oh, Virgo is known to be a double agent. This is Trip. Yes. See the logo. Yeah, appreciate that, Trip. Thank you. By the way, Mary Saunders says, sir, just give us the news. Don't worry about the fake people. Okay. I'm trying to work on it, but she did a video. If you go, I know sometimes they want the limelight, but it looks like she's built up a big following as well. But I know there's people that may come over here because they're curious. I've talked to people behind the scenes that said they can tell sometimes when people are lying and making up information, and they're honestly in search. I've met, and I can tell a lot of people out there are hungry for this information. Unfortunately, like I said, it's unconventional, it's hidden, and I just want to talk about the legitimate side that they're not covering. They're trying to make it where like it's one-dimensional, and I'm not going to let someone falsely accuse myself of being part of something that I've never sold TDA packages. And she said she did this short video and said myself, Money Boy, Hellraiser, and I've met these people, but I've never met them in person, face to face. I was on a conference call that Hellraiser did, but she's trying to accuse it, and she even mentioned April Lejeune, and just make up things that's fraudulent. By the way, that's a form of gaslighting. This is what she's doing. It's very despicable, by the way, and that's why I called her out. You know, and unfortunately I have to. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's lying about you, that's defamation of character. That's libel. When these are blatant lies, and I've debunked a lot of things. Even go back to my previous videos when I mentioned she tried to say United States is not a federal corporation, and I stated look up Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15, subsection C. It stated unequivocally. She just makes up stuff. You know, that's fraud. And these are like she had on her channel. When I looked, you know how you can check people's channel about them, that she's not into bullying and stuff like, but she's a bully herself. I noticed more recently she was using a lot of profanity. You hear, I don't use a lot of curse words. I have cussed before on my channel, but she uses a lot of profanity. She says a lot of this is the BS word over there. No, there's a credible side to this information. Before M. Ross's channel got shut down, that's how I discovered M. Ross. If Eugene, anybody out there knows him, let him know. If he comes back, you'll have a fellow ally. I'll share his channel, because I did hear that his videos were backed up by a subscriber, and I recommend you guys find the software to back up the information, because with some of these operatives, these deep state minions, these gatekeepers, these shields, these underlings are trying to do, they're trying to use a form of gaslighting tactics to make it seem like the people who are talking about the legitimate stuff are not credible, and lump us into being domestic terrorists and just wrongly accuse everyone. That's a form of stereotyping where you're not vetting each individual person. We all are born with different personalities, different temperaments. By the way, some people might have general characteristic similarities, but however, we all don't think the same. People that study in this movement, there's different processes, there's different procedures. So she's not being fair, and that's fraudulent what she's doing. So I'm sorry, I just had to explain that to you, Mary. I had to call her out, you know, and you guys, you know, I'm gonna need you to come to my defense as well. If you guys like the work that I do as well, you guys are welcome to even reshare the information. Even if you want to expose these gatekeepers, I welcome you, and I'll share. If you guys get bigger than my channel, I'll share your work. But I'm not trying to get all the limelight, but I'm just showing validity. I'm kind of like Mythbusters, what they do. But I give you guys important, high-powered information to look up, to debunk what a lot of these fake agents and trolls that are hiding behind shill accounts and fake names want you to believe their facts matter. Lost Grind says she's a phony. Chris Ledford says, thanks for doing what you do, brother. Good people with the right info is hard to find. Thank you. Namaste, by the way. Says, hey, bro, in a business and law with the UCC, it says a claim must have jurisdiction on complaint, yet never see that anywhere on citations. Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of times, if you go over to Free Inhabitants channel, he went under a different name. By the way, get some air in here real quick. He went under a different name, Chancellor Solicitor General. There's a video on his channel called I Do Not Consent. And I shared that with one of my subscribers recently. Very powerful video. I recommend download it ASAP in case they try to just do them like Ross channel, Eugene, and just shut it down all of a sudden. I didn't see where Eugene didn't break no rules. By the way, a lot of this stuff, I don't have the time to go into it, that YouTube is doing and the gatekeepers is owned by is totally, is egregious. High misconduct. They're having fraudulent monopolies. This is torturous interference. They're gaming the system, the algorithms. It's a whistleblower. Several whistleblowers have come out with Google who are just up and appalled, disgusted. Even Google lied to our Congress members about the Dragonfly search engine over in China that they were trying to implement over here. Twice, two different CEOs lied, committed perjury, which is a felony, by the way. Lied to members of our Congress at hearings last year. They lied about that. There was information I saw reported on by Alex Jones, who they tell you, mind you, a lot of times the people, they tell you are conspiracy theorists. And I'm going to say, this doesn't mean that just because you listen to someone, I pay attention to everyone, doesn't mean you have to co-sign everything in that person's ideology or everything that person says. But just using this as an example, a lot of times the people who are telling you the truth, or a lot of things people are afraid, or major news agencies are afraid to report on, they try to blacklist those people or shut them down. So you have to think that, that's awfully suspicious. Using critical thinking. When I also called out these gatekeepers, by the way, I saw ABC World News Tonight with David Muro aired Friday, February 21st, because today's the 22nd now, by the way. And the time, just so you guys know before I shut the video down, it's 1:29 a.m. Saturday, February 22nd. I'm at the plantation. But I was watching the video. They show Wells Fargo Bank had the settlement. And I forgot to mention, they said that they targeted minorities, college students, and seniors, by the way, when they open up these fake accounts. But I said, why don't Virgo Triad, these other shills, talk about what Wells Fargo Bank did? That's a lot of damage right there. A lot of money, $3 billion. And they're a major bank. And if they're still operating, by the way, and then Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, remember these data breaches? Remember when Best Buy, Target was in the news some years ago? You think that these data breaches are happening by coincidence? Now, who has the power or the time on their hands to check my Fitbit, to do that type of thing? Who has the resources, the money to finance that? And you think that's a coincidence, by the way. But you got to question, why are these minions, gatekeepers, and shills aren't mentioning that, but they're going after small people, say, oh, it's the SCs over there. It's them, it's them. She'll have you believe it's the SC lurking around the corner waiting to come take your money or come get you. When her channel's monetized, she's had a GoFundMe account, etc., and tries to appeal to you, to your emotions, that she's a sweet person. But I've seen her use profanity on there, on her channel, by the way, and claims to be against bullying. By the way, but something real interesting, something to think about, by the way. And they never show not show a real face or real name, but want you to believe their facts matter. Yep. Chris Ledford says, Black's Law Fifth says a license is not a contract. Won't find that in newer ones. So why enforce something that isn't a contract? Let me read that again. It says, Black's Law Fifth says a license is not a contract. Won't find that in newer ones. So why enforce something? They're using, how can I put it? I was told years ago, like it's legal for the police to pull you over. However, it's not lawful sometimes. You might say, what do I mean by that? Like, if you've seen the videos, well, I saw there's success videos too, where I saw a young man defending his father on a particular channel. Real interesting, the way he did that. His father was being picked up, and he said, what probable cause? When they turn the emergency lights on legally, there's supposed to be an emergency that's been committed. But a lot of times, as a form of courtesy, as we've been taught to do, and I do understand compliance to a degree. I still respect authority because of the nature of the field I do work in. I think you have to have balance, by the way. So I'm giving you a fair, balanced perspective. But legally, it's a difference between legal and lawful. So yes, they have removed some things, and they're operating under de facto, which is under. If you look up the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938, look up the history of the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case and the statutory courts, and check out that video from I just mentioned from Free Inhabitants channel, which is now called Chancellor Solicitor General, and it'll have in the title called "I Do Not Consent." That brother, I think that was someone else who spoke on his behalf. He uploaded, did a very excellent job to explain how the states are revenue collectors. They use police officers, they're officers of the state. Think about the name, the terminology. They also are connected to the courts. There's a lot of fraud being committed with that doesn't get discussed with the lawyers and judges, by the way. So that there's a reason why they're just trying to point to lower level police officers. Yes, we do have some problems here. I said we're not perfect. I won't get into all that. But you have to look at the court systems. When I went over earlier, when you hire a lawyer, you're saying legally you're incompetent. When you give them your social security number, your John Hancock, they can monetize your signature and sign contracts. You know, they're doing electronic stuff on documents you may not even be aware of, because when you declared yourself incompetent, you're saying I'm handicapped, I can't read, I'm not competent to handle when this is the contract. So I suggest you may do a limited power of attorney, by the way, even if you appoint them as a fiduciary, by the way, because a lot of times you give them your SSN, they can cash in on that account. And because the courts fractionalize, they have what's called the CRIS accounts, that stands for Court Registry Investment, CRIS accounts, Court Registry Investment System. By the way, it's connected to the Federal Reserve. The county uses a CAFR, which stands for Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports, which is another that deals with banking. This is where the finance banking comes into play. So when they charge you, they're charging your bond. They're still going to your attacking your QSIP. They may just create another number, because what they do when you give them power of attorney, they create a constructed trust and administer your estate. Your legal person, your straw man, is already an estate, a trust account. The reason a lot of states are committing fraud when they're blocking people, by the way, because they're confused between the linguists. They're not doing proper research, and then there's people that may have done out there that have not followed the paperwork and stuff correctly. That's led to some of the chaos. I can't speak for everybody's situation, so I don't know. You know, there's different states, different laws. You have to look up what the laws are. I also recommend talk to your public officials. Explain this, because we need more people to articulate what's really happening, by the way. Says, okay. Chris Ledford says, in chat, bro, Indigenous says GMEI. Yes. Thank you, Cherokee. Chris Ledford says, I got a few questions on chat, bro. Okay, thank you. Andrew Martin says, WWG, where we go one, we go all. Yes. Yep, I agree with that. I like a song. There was a particular song they did too. They did one of the videos. It sounded like it had a country flavor, but it was a real good song. I don't know the name of the guy when I made one of my mixtapes, but I'm down with that. I know about that as well. Q, I love Q, by the way. Just leave it at that. State Bound says policy officers. Chris Ledford says high frequency radio and freedom from government channels. Darren Jackson says everything you saying is true. Thank you for confirming. I need that. Also, let's get the thumbs up. You guys agree with what I'm saying? It lets the gatekeepers, the haters and trolls know, you know, let's patrol their channels. If they're going to come at us, let them know we're going to bring that fire back and let them know about the legitimate side, that this stuff is real. We're going to expose the minions, gatekeepers, deep state operatives, the shields, the underlings, the henchmen out there, that villain, by the way. So thank you guys. I appreciate you very much. Chris Ledford says, if it's all fictional, why claim it's ours? And that is true to a degree. I think you're advanced, and that may apply, you know, more so to people who are advanced. I have gone over some advanced information, by the way, but as I said, to reiterate, I'm at a certain level. And it's Tony Benson Mahuka says, my favorite guy to listen to. Thank you. I appreciate you, Tony Mahuka. Appreciate that. Namaste. Chris Ledford says, dog Latin Justinian deception. Yeah, you on another level, Chris, with the vocabulary. That's why I go over the newbies out there, people studying. Once we cause see they purposely we should have been learning this stuff back in middle school, elementary school, I would say. They say civics class, which I had the chance. I didn't know what civics. I thought that was history at first, but I guess it dealt with the law. I might have had a civics class when I was in high school, because some of it gets into American government, because American government talks about the three body politics of government, like for the checks and balances, how you have the legislative, executive, and judicial branch, part of the three body politics of government, because I did take American government many years ago at Cooley High School. By the way, I may have taken that my senior year. I also took world history. These classes were important. It's the reason why we learn these classes, not just in college, but high school, and how they apply to real life, to commerce, by the way. So why is no one talking about that? We got to do a better job. Tony Benson says, Mahuka says, straight up, appreciate you, thumbs up. Love that you interact with your followers. Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, because I'm not one of those people out there that's bougie. I know that some content creators, but some people do have a large following where it's difficult for them to answer everybody. So I try to get to the Q&A when I get a chance to answer you guys. But I appreciate you guys. Now, with that said, I'm going to get ready to shut things down. I have to work on trying to come to you guys earlier in the day to let you guys know I'm transparent with you guys. I hold myself accountable. So we have proper checks and balances. So I'm transparent. I want to thank you for watching Dorsey's Resource. I'm your host, John Dorsey. You can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Instagram. I'm not on there as much. By the way, that's like Dorsey's Resource 2019 or underscore 2019, something like that. By the way, I'm still learning this social media thing. I'm kind of from the old school era. I'm an 80s baby. So still getting used to even new tech coming out. Some things I'm strong in, some things I'm not. But I do appreciate you guys for joining, all my followers, subscribers who continue to follow me. If you like the work that I do, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, a comment. You're welcome to post links on my Facebook page as well. And also, if you're not subscribed, if you hit the notification bell at the lower right-hand corner, whenever I put out new videos, YouTube should notify you. By the way, whenever I go live, this all would not be possible without you guys. State Bound says peace and blessings. Keep it up. Chris Ledford says truth through love. Appreciate you. Lisa says thank you, Dorsey. Lisa from Cincinnati. I appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you for joining, by the way. Until next time, guys, I said rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. His memorial service is coming up. By the way, leave you with these cliches. The real legends never die. By the way, rest in peace, Black Mamba. The marathon continues. Everybody out there, stay woke. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.